What happens when you read a book 95 years after it was published and review the reasons why that book was originally banned? How does it hold up to the modern day? Hello, welcome to my channel. Another Bibliophile Reads. My name is Greg, and I am participating in the Read 24 Banned Books in 2024 challenge created by MJ at Reading This Life. I have recently finished book number 10. But before I talk about the banned book I recently read, let me talk about a recent law that has been passed in Minnesota that is actually kind of fantastic. Minnesota bans book bans. Governor Tim Walz signed a law that prohibits library books from being censored solely due to disagreement with their content. Minnesota Tim Walz signed an education bill prohibiting public libraries from restricting access to any book based solely on its viewpoint or the messages, ideas, or opinions it conveys. The law, which covers a host of education-related topics, mandates library collections be managed by a licensed library media specialist, an individual with a master's degree in library science or library and information sciences, or a professional librarian, or a person with extensive library collection management experience. It requires school boards and governing bodies to accept the consistent policies creating procedures for challenging and removing books from schools and prohibits them from censoring materials based solely on their personal beliefs or ideology. Yes, this is a fantastic law. Well done, Minnesota. I wish more states would do this, or even better yet, have this be a federal law and tell the Moms for Liberty to go take a hike somewhere. And the banned book that I recently read was A Farewell to Arms by Ernest Hemingway, originally published in 1929, 95 years ago. And the reason it was banned is because of its depictions of war and sex. So, how does this 95-year-old book hold up with its descriptions of war and sex? Here is a scene beginning at page 27. The main character, Frederick Henry, is an American lieutenant in the Italian army. He has just been seriously wounded in the leg after a battle, and he's going to be loaded up onto an ambulance. The pain that the major had spoken about had started, and all that was happening was without interest or relation. After a while, the English ambulance came up, and they put me onto a stretcher and lifted the stretcher up to the ambulance level and shoved it in. There was another stretcher by the side with a man on it whose nose I could see, waxy looking, without the bandages. He breathed very heavily. There were stretchers lifted and slid into the slings above. The tall English driver came around and looked in. "I'll take it very easy," he said. "I hope you'll be comfy." I felt the engine start. I felt him climb up into the front seat, felt the brake come off and the clutch go in. Then we were started. I lay still and let the pain ride. As the ambulance climbed along the road, it was slow in the traffic. Sometimes it stopped. Sometimes it backed on a turn, and then finally it climbed quite fast. I felt something dripping. At first it dripped slowly and regularly. Then it patterned into a stream. I shouted to the driver. He stopped the car and looked through the hole behind his seat. "What is it?" "The man on the stretcher over me has a hemorrhage. We're not that far from the top. I wouldn't be able to get the stretcher out alone." He started the car. The stream kept on. In the dark, I could not see where it came from the canvas overhead. I tried to move sideways so that it did not fall on me. Where it had run down under my shirt, it was warm and sticky. I was cold and my leg hurt, so that made me sick. After a while, the stream from the stretcher above lessened and started to drip again. I heard and felt the canvas above me move as the man on the stretcher settled in more comfortably. "How is he?" the Englishman called back. "We're almost up." "He's dead, I think," I said. The drops fell very slowly, as they fell from an icicle after the sun has gone. It was cold in the car, and the night as the road climbed. At the post at the top, they took the stretcher out and put another in, and we went on. So, is that a graphic description of the effects of war? I think it's actually really rather effective. I can see myself being this wounded soldier and getting that drip that turns into a stream and turns into a drip again. But was that the reason the book was banned? Is that strong enough? Maybe so. I'll leave that other people to decide, because I don't know exactly which passages got it banned for depictions of war. But this is not a romantic vision of war. Okay, let's talk about one of the sexy scenes in this book. And when I call it a sexy scene, I'm exaggerating a little bit. But this was 1929, and Hemingway could not actually get away with an actual sex scene. So he talks about something else. He's going to talk about hair. And in this scene, Frederick Henry is in the hospital recovering from his leg wound. He has a Scottish girlfriend who is a nurse who visits him in his room at night. "I loved to take her hair down, and she sat on the bed and kept very still, except suddenly she would dip down to kiss me while I was doing it, and I would take out the pins and lay them on the sheet, and it would be loose, and I would watch her while she kept very still, and then take out the last 2 pins, and it would all come down, and she would drop her head, and we would both be inside of it. And it was the feeling of inside a tent or behind a falls. She had wonderfully beautiful hair, and I would lie sometimes and watch her twisting it up in the light that came in the open door, and it shone even in the night as water shines sometimes just before it is really daylight. She had a lovely face and body and lovely smooth skin too. We would be lying together and would touch her cheeks and her forehead and under her eyes and her chin and throat with the tips of my fingers and say, 'Smooth as piano keys.' And she would stroke my chin with her finger and say, 'Smooth as emery paper and very hard on piano keys.' Is it rough? No, darling, I was just making fun of you. It was lovely in the nights, and if we could only touch each other when we were happy. Besides all the big times, we had many small ways of making love, and we tried putting thoughts in each other's head while we were in different rooms. It would work sometimes, but that was probably because we were thinking the same way. How sexy is that? Is that sexy enough to get a book banned? Probably not. But that is about as graphic as he gets. The feeling of the hair and playing with a woman's hair. Well, playing with a woman's hair can be kind of fun. But does it get it banned? Now, later on in the book, Catherine becomes pregnant. Frederick offers to marry her, but she says, no, I'm not going to be one of those women going to the altar pregnant. We will just have this child on our own, and then later get married. So there is very explicitly a man and a woman. They are living together as husband and wife. Even though they are not husband and wife, they have created a child together, and they are very happy together. And that perhaps is one of the things that got readers truly upset. Because how could a man and woman be happy creating a child together and not be married? It's all that whole idea of the man and the woman having sex outside of marriage that disturbed people, that probably got this book banned. But by today's standards, this is nothing. Who cares if they're not married and have a child? Well, okay, I'm forcing my views a little bit on the subject. I guess there are some people, Moms for Liberty, that still get upset about that. But this book probably does not get banned as much as it used to. Nowadays, it really focuses on, men with men or women with women, those kind of people having sex together and maybe having a good time and enjoying a good life and not worrying about what other people think. Well, anyway, those are the reasons A Farewell to Arms got banned. I really enjoyed reading this, although technically this is a reread. I read it in the paperback way back in the late 80s, and I listened to an audiobook version in the 90s, and like I said, just recently reread it on my Kindle. And as far as banned books go, as I said, I really enjoy it. I enjoy it more than some of the more recently banned books that are geared more towards younger people. But in any case, I am going to continue on this banned book project and everyone who belongs to it. And thanks once again for MJ for getting this event started and getting people interested in reading banned books. Thank you for watching, and keep on reading.